Шановні колеги, ми продовжуємо робочий день. До слова запрошую.
The presidential administration spokesperson on ATO-related issues, Colonel Andriy Lysenko. Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues. The information on the events which took place in the ATO zone during the last 24 hours in Lugan direction, illegal armed groups violated the ceasefire regime in several places, Sizar, Stanitsa, Lugansk, and Trukizbenka. Most of the shellings were non-targeted and in the dark time of the day. In the next direction, there are active military actions taking place near Avdiivka. In other sections of the front, it's quiet. In the second half of the day, the enemy executed four powerful shellings using different mortar calibers. More than 100 mines were launched at Ukrainian positions. All these shellings were from Mineralne village in Mariupolsky direction. They were military actions in the north at the section of the front between Krasnogorivka and Novotroivsk. Mostly the enemy was shelling in dark time of the day. The occupants were using armored personnel carriers and mortars. During the whole day at Mariupolsky direction, there were 7 enemy shellings. According to the information, there were 2 flights of the enemy's drones in the zone of ATO. There are no people killed during the last 24 hours, and 3 were wounded. 1 serviceman was perished, and 4 were wounded in the result of uncareful use of explosives. It happened in Konstantinivsky district in Donetsk region. According to the information of the main intelligence department of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, during the last 2 days, the enemy had losses. On the 18th of May, the group of militants from the so-called 7th Brigade of the 2nd Army Corps of the so-called LPR. 1 militant was killed and 4 were wounded. Also on the 19th of May, 3 more militants were wounded, and these are from the 1st Army Corps of so-called DNR and the 2nd Army Corps of the so-called LPR. Besides, our intelligence says that the discipline got worse in the illegal armed groups. On the 17th of May, the whole platoon of the militants from the 1st Army Corps of the so-called DPR band refused to stay at the front positions near Avdiivka. To keep them there, the special troop of the servicemen of the National Guard of Russian Federation was used. On the 18th of May, another platoon of occupants from the so-called 1st Brigade of the Army Corps of the DPR and about 20 militants of the so-called 7th Brigade stated the intention to leave the service in illegal armed groups. The Security Service of Ukraine detained also the informer of DPR band. He was recruited back in summer 2014 to transfer the data on the places of dislocation, of the routes of movement of ATO forces near Donetsk airport. All this intelligence, receiving this intelligence, the militants were adjusting their shellings at our positions. Besides, the Security Service detained 1 more militant who in May-July 2014 was protecting the seized by bandits the city council of Kramatorsk and was hunting Ukrainian patriots. And the police of Toretsk detained a pensioner who was involved into occupation of the city by the band of so-called DPI in 2014. The former militant had to defend the checkpoint of the enemy, but after the city was liberated by Ukrainian forces, this person was hiding from law enforcement. Ukrainian special forces are improving their military skills. Yesterday in Khmelnytsk region, the servicemen had did 300 jumps with parachutes, and that is part of the training of the tactical of the diversion intelligence group. Also, Kharkiv recruits cadets had training on anti-air defense, taking into account the experience of anti-terrorist operation. A lot of attention is paid to that. At the same time, the instructors, medicians in Chernigiv region were teaching tactical medicine. This improves the preparation of our servicemen who participate to go to ATO. That during the training, the medicians tried the new system of information support of evacuation, which is close to the standards of NATO countries. Now the system is being tested, and then it will be introduced into our armed forces. And via Novotroitsky checkpoint, 7 trucks with humanitarian assistance went to support the citizens of occupied territories, and these are the trucks from the International Red Cross. Any questions? Brief. Levchenko Semen, Party People's Movement of Ukraine. I'm not a military person, and you mentioned that in Lugansk direction, there was a shelling at our positions, and in Donetsk front, there were active military actions. Is it the same, or is there difference? The shellings and military actions are these same things. In Lugansk direction, we registered non-targeted shellings, but in Donetsk direction, in Avdiivka, there were targeted shellings at our positions, and they were using practically all types of armaments and weapons, starting from small arms and down to the mortars of 120 caliber. Any other questions? Англійською буде запитання.
Я перепрошую, 120 мм.
120 millimeter mortars. Yeah.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Heikki Aittokoski. I'm a journalist from Finland, Helsinki. I'm here for the first time, so if you please allow a sort of a first-timer's question. I understood the situation that you were describing recently, but could you tell me a little bit more about how you see the strategy of the militants of the so-called DPR and LPR? What are they doing on a do they have a strategy, so to say?
First of all, the plan as to occupying or seizing the territory of independent Ukraine is part of the strategy of Russian Federation, and the Russian Federation is the aggressor. They occupied the Crimean Peninsula, and because using the hybrid methods of war, they occupied the territories of Donbas, part of Donetsk and Lugansk regions, to disguise their presence and so that the presence of Russian forces on the territory of Donbas, for example, is not recognized. For that, the Russian Federation disguises them as the insurgents, as of the local citizens are defending their territory, and they want to liberate Donbass from Ukrainian authorities. It's about the puppets who are executing the will of the Kremlin. Also, such puppets, as we know, they never have their own strategy. They execute only the tasks which are given to them, the orders. There's a clear information that on the territory of the occupied Donbass, there are the units of the armed forces of Russian Federation, of the FSB, the National Guards, the internal forces who are coordinating, instructing, commanding these bands, these formations. We understand that there are some plans, the enemy has some plans, but thanks to the data that we receive from our sources from Russian Federation, from occupied territory, very often with 99% of the accuracy, we receive the plans of the enemy, and we do everything to oppose these plans. If we could understand what the further strategy would be, we would have organized counter-strategy measures, but everything that's happening gives us understanding that the enemy is not planning to leave these territories, but the Russian Federation, they failed to implement their first plans, but now they are in the situation which is not clear. Most probably these plans will be corrected, adjusted by the Kremlin, and that happened just because Ukrainian armed forces, our volunteers, they ruined all the plans of the enemy as to occupying these territories and reaching other regions of Ukraine, and we managed in a short time to restore our special service, to arm our armed forces, to teach them, and with the assistance of foreign partners, we managed to achieve a lot, including a lot according to the standards of providing medical assistance, supporting the forces, providing more up-to-date equipment and techniques to our forces. We also have our own tests of some inventions, and we cannot wait till someone will give us something. We have to count at our forces. We need to rely on people and our scientific potential, people who do everything to bring the victory. Today we are ready to execute the agreements achieved at the international level. We execute them. The representatives of the OSCE mission, OECSC mission, which are in Donbass, they collect all the information about the militants, and our actions are to block the enemy, not to allow the enemy to move forward. And we are trying to develop, to do such a plan which would include diplomatic, political, social, military components, which will give us positive result. We are preparing all the time to wage active actions. We are ready to resist the enemy. During the last 24 years of independence of Ukraine, we never had so many military exercises as we have now. We have one of the most prepared armies in Europe today. We have real military warfare experience, and we share that experience with the instructors who arrive from foreign countries. In any case, we are trying to do it so that this victory, liberation of the territories of Donbass, happens without any bloodshed at the political level, so that it all happens at political level. And this means that our diplomats, our leadership of Ukraine work hard, and we thank our international partners who support our proposals and who together are for stopping aggressive actions of Russia so that foreign troops are withdrawn from the territory of Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you, Colonel. Once you have no more questions, we will complete the press conference. Thank you, Andriy. The next event will take place